Your AI is genuinely brilliant, but it knows nothing about you or your business. And everyone is realizing that the missing piece is context. And to get to good context, the missing piece is a personal knowledge graph, or some call it a second brain. Andrej Karpathy, the legendary LLM scientist, started building his own second brain. Without a second brain, your AI will give you generic AI slop we all know from ChatGPT. But with a second brain, it will give you answers that are personalized to you or your business and understanding the context of where your business is doing or what you're doing. But almost everyone sets their second brain up wrong. And so if it's not intentionally built, it will just give your AI context that is just not useful and fills up its context window with junk that will lead to the same generic AI slop answers. Today, I will show you the exact difference with real business examples, and I will give you the prompts so you can build it on your own. By the end of this video, you will have all the prompts, you will have the full understanding of why you need a second brain, on how to build a second brain that actually works for your AI and is scalable, and so you can go ahead and set it up yourself in 20 minutes. What is a knowledge graph? So this is really simple, although it might sound a little bit technical, but let me just explain it to you. So a knowledge graph is just a graph made of text files. So you can see here, all of these are just a text file that looks essentially like this. So it just has something that is one decision or one thing, one interesting information from your business, just written down into what's called a markdown file, which is essentially a text file. And then when you connect them together, so we call, by the way, these text files nodes. And so when you connect them together by just saying that it is related to another text file, then that is called a link. And so a knowledge graph is essentially just nodes, text files, connected with links, which is just a reference within the text file that it is connected to something else. And so it is super simple. It's only these two things. But the interesting thing about this, putting together two of these simple concepts, which is essentially a text file and then a link, which is a connection between the text files, is now it kind of acts similar to your own brain. Because imagine you have a business use case that you had a meeting where you were discussing churn, and you discussed that there were 3 small clients that churned, and that's a fact. And so then your AI, let's say you had an AI recording and transcription tool in the meeting that recorded it, and then realized, okay, we have small clients churned, that is a fact. Let me write it down as just a text file. And so the interesting part of having these two relatively simple concepts, which is just a text file and then links between each other, is that now you can build really complex stuff that actually supports your business and gives your AI all the context it needs to be a super competent analyst or whatever you need it for. And so let's take this real business example here. You might have a meeting about Q1 churn, and so that is a source. Let's imagine you had an AI note taker taking the transcript. And so that is your source. Then you have facts. For example, during the meeting, you might have said 3 small clients churned. Okay, so the AI looks at that in the transcript and says, okay, that is a fact. And so that fact supports a decision that the business shouldn't take clients under 1 million a year in revenue because they just churn faster. And so that is an insight that you came up with because you realized all of your bigger clients were happy with your service and they stayed, while all of your smaller clients, they didn't stay and they churned away, and you had the same customer acquisition cost on them. And so it doesn't make sense to go for clients under $1 million in annual revenue. And this is a very insightful decision from a meeting that the AI picks up and then correctly identifies it as being a decision. And so that decision then will lead into building your ideal customer persona, which can be a pillar in the business because it is based on a real fact and then a decision that is based on a fact. And so that's how you build a pillar that your AI will understand. And so the result is that you can answer, why don't we take small clients? Now the AI knows it really well. Why you don't do that is because they churn faster and the customer acquisition cost is the same on them. With that all being said, we kind of concluded that it does make sense to build a second brain for your business or for your personal use so that your AI has the right context. Real quick, my name is domplaner and I have an AI implementation agency. So if you're a business owner and you need help with AI, for example, setting up custom tools or creating a company brain or just enabling your team to use more AI tools, I will link my email in the comments and feel free to hit me up with any questions that you might have. Back to the video. The next decision, well, how do you build that second brain? And so the issue a lot of people run into here is that they create a lot of large text files so that they just dump in all the knowledge that they have. And it's going to be, hundreds of pages of Word documents that the AI needs to look at. And that is just not working efficiently. And so I'm going to call that a traditional second brain. And the alternative that I will propose, I'm going to call that an infinite brain. And so the core difference between a second brain and the infinite brain is going to be that a second brain has giant folders and nodes. And so one question the AI will need to research the whole long text, while the infinite brain is three things. It's atomic, typed, and linked. So this means that you're going to have smaller text files, ideally between 50 and 300 words, instead of putting large text files together. You're going to link them together more efficiently. So you're going to introduce a system of how the linking works so that each link is actually defined. And finally, there are going to be different types of links. I'm going to list all of them here, but it would be a little bit too advanced to go through everything. I'm happy to do a second video about that and just dive deep into what each of the links and connections mean. But what's enough for us right now is that there are different links between the text files, and that helps AI search it faster. So let me show you an example of what's called a front matter that we always put on top of an infinite brain versus a second brain. So a second brain would be just the text file, and then AI would decide which one it kind of connects to, but it doesn't have an index or a front matter. You can call it either index or front matter. I'm going to call it index in this video. And so the index tells you what is the node type. If it's a decision, remember the node types are here. It can be a decision, a fact, a hypothesis, a concept, a question, and a lot of other things. And so the node type tells you what it is. It gives you a very quick summary so that AI can go into it and just read that short summary. Then it gives you a confidence level of how confident it is that this piece of content is true. It tells you the date it was last looked at or verified. It tells you when it would be interesting to look at it again and revisit it, whether it stays true or not. It tells you what it is connected to. For example, this decision is supporting a pillar pricing philosophy. And so the biggest difference between a normal second brain and an infinite second brain is that it has this index. There are actually three benefits of using an index like this with an infinite brain. And so one of them is that you will use less tokens, which means that it's cheaper, it will be faster, so you save time. And the quality of the output is going to be better because it will be able to put the correct things into the AI's context window instead of filling it up with a lot of junk that it doesn't need, but it needs to go through in order to find the right thing if it's a normal second brain. It's eliminated with the infinite brain because it can just ingest this index and then find the right things. Before I show you this chart on why the second brain is working so much worse than the infinite brain, let me actually show you in a tool called Obsidian how the difference looks. So I have Obsidian here, and so this on the left side is a normal second brain type of markdown file, and this on the right side is an infinite brain style. And so you can see that in the second brain, it is just a dump of text, a description of essentially a meeting. But then here, it has a couple of tags and date at least. So AI can kind of connect it. So for example, if something else would have the tag finance, it would connect it to that. But that is not a super accurate tagging system. Here in the infinite brain, you can see that we have the whole properties section, which then relates it. We still have the tagging system as well, but you have the ID, the title, the type of decision, what it is connected to here with the edges. So there are so much more information. So there is just so much more information that AI can quickly ingest this short period of paragraph or index and then get the whole understanding of what is here. Now, secondly, you can see that this one is a very long file with a bunch of text, while this other one, the infinite brain on the right side, is super short. That is it, because it's only 50 to 300 words. This one is actually 110 words, and then this one on the left side is 780 words, which would be too long. It would be outside of the 300. And so let me come back to this chart and show you why the infinite brain works better than the second brain. Well, if you have only up to 50 or 100 different markdown files, so text files connected to each other, there is no huge difference in terms of the number of tokens that you need to use. But I went ahead and texted all the different systems here. So starting with 20 markdown files all the way up to 2,000 files. And I wanted to see how much tokens it cost to just answer a simple question And so AI needed to go into this knowledge graph and find the answer to my question. And so the result is when it comes to small knowledge graphs, there is no meaningful difference in the number of tokens used. So up to 50 to let's say even 100 markdown files, there is no massive difference in the tokens used. But where it really starts to deviate is at around 250, and there is going to be a massive deviation at 2000, and that deviation will just keep growing. Now you might say that I won't need that many files from my own knowledge graph, but the reality is for my own personal knowledge graph, I have over 50,000 markdown files. And when it comes to a business, which is so much more complicated than a personal project, you can go up to the millions of markdown files because it just comes to facts and decisions. But when it comes to a business, it can go up all the way to millions of text files to capture all of your decisions and all of the important parts of the business. And so when it comes to millions, the difference is just going to be so massive that it's actually not even possible to just use a normal second brain. It will just fill up the context window, use a bunch of tokens, and more often than not, will just not find the right answer. So using a second brain will work on a hobbyist level, but for real business, it's just not scalable to the level of a real business. So here's a quick summary of the test that I run between 20 and 2000 markdown files. We used approximately 1200 tokens to answer the question on the infinite brain, while we used about 26,000 tokens to answer on the normal second brain. And so that means that it was about 21 times cheaper and likely faster to answer the same question using essentially the same information, just organized differently. And let me add one more thing, because if you have an infinite brain correctly set up, the next step is to set up the infinite intake. But the infinite intake would be too long for this video, so let me just give you a teaser, and I will release a full video on infinite intake later. And so the whole idea of infinite intake is that now that we have infinite brain, you are able to put so much information in there and keep it searchable, keep it queryable, so that your AI can find anything and it can scale up to millions of files. Well, now you would be interested in add millions of files. So all of your emails, your meeting recordings, your Slack messages, all of the relevant information can go into the infinite brain because it will not choke your AI. And so building out the infinite intake system is all about building out to capture all the information from email, Slack, meetings, in-person meetings, and all the different things that are relevant to your business. If you are interested, I'm going to actually link both the infinite brain and the infinite intake in my free school community. Again, I charge nothing. You don't even need to add your email. You can just go there and grab it for free. I also post all of my free content there, so you can just go ahead and I will link it in the comment. All right, so finally, let me show you how you can build your own. Essentially, you will need to spin up a vault in your computer. I will give you a starter prompt that will write that for you. You can just paste it into Claude Code or Codex. In case you have an existing second brain, you can convert it into an infinite brain, and I will leave a prompt for that as well. After having that starter prompt set up and having essentially that folder or that repository, a repository is a folder essentially, then you can just point your Claude Code or Codex to that folder and then just keep working from there. And then you can just scale it all the way. Your Claude will remember because in the .claude file, it will have the instructions on how to add new information. And if you add infinite intake to it, then it will actually automatically add new information for you as well. That all being said, thank you so much for watching the whole video. I will link everything down below in the description and also in the comments, so you will have all the free prompts and the repos, and so you can set up the infinite brain for yourself. If you like this video, please leave a like and a comment about what kind of other videos you would like, or if you need any assistance, just please comment. And then if you would hit the subscribe button, it would help me a lot. It is completely free for you, but it helps me create more useful videos in the AI topics. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.